carries over into the animal world as well. As we'll see in our first video, mother love transcends species, and hell hath no fury like a mother whose child has been kidnapped. A camera crew travels to sub-Saharan Africa to capture the birth of a baby elephant. The crew intends to track this baby's first few weeks. They hope to capture all the excitement and drama of the calf's early days of life. The newborn elephant calf slips and slides in the birth fluid, but all the time the elephant's mother, the matriarch of the herd, watches over her, keeping her safe from predators. As the young calf grows, certain traits emerge. This calf is curious, adventurous, ready to trot off and discover what's out there. But it is unaware of dangers that lurk outside the protection of the herd, and her curious nature soon gets her in trouble. She wanders too far away from her mother and is abducted by a larger herd of elephants. Why the rival herd has captured the calf is unclear. Perhaps it is a demonstration of dominance. The calf's mother tries to get closer to her by backing towards the herd, a sign of submission. But the tactic is futile as an individual from the other herd prods her with its tusk. The calf will die of starvation if its mother is unable to win its freedom. No member of the rival herd will allow it to suckle. Two young females try to get the calf, but she is imprisoned with the legs of the rival matriarch acting as bars of a jail cell. The situation has now become desperate. The matriarch gathers her herd into a tight formation and tries one last maneuver. Their aggressive move will either intimidate the rivals or incite a brutal confrontation. Luckily, the kidnappers release their captive, and the calf is reunited with its mother. If elephants really do have good memories, then let's hope this calf remembers the lesson it learned this time. Temper curiosity with caution, and always stay close to mom. These tiger cubs receive lots of motherly attention, but not from who you might think. They get it from pigs. Welcome to the cub pen at the Sirisha Tiger Zoo in Chonburi, Thailand. This is the world's largest tiger zoo with more than 130 Bengal tigers. The tiger cubs are frisky and downright friendly. But wait, why aren't they fierce man-eating terrors? The best explanation seems to be the way these tiger cubs are nursed. The first several weeks the cubs are left with their mothers, but then the cubs are introduced to a designated mother pig and her piglets. By taking the cubs away, their mothers are able to produce their next litter sooner. Currently, the zoo's 9 female tigers can produce 70 cubs annually. And according to zoo officials, the milk from the mother pig is healthier than tiger milk. The tigers are healthier and more docile when they become adults. They're also able to breed twice a year instead of just once. As you can see, the tiger cubs and piglets quickly bond and become buddies. With the Asian tiger population plummeting from 100,000 to 7,000 in a century, this zoo's efforts might help turn that around. And the 500,000 guests each year appreciate it. See life around. Who are these strange creatures that seem to be menacing the tiny craft? No matter what happens, brave Brutus doesn't flinch.
All right, Brutus.
Now, a submarining sea dog would be a story in itself. But the depths of the oceans are only one passion of this intrepid pup. Would you believe he also just loves to skydive? Ron has made hundreds of jumps, so he knows how important it is to do everything just so. He must lay out the parachute, arrange the cords, and pack Brutus, the dauntless dachshund, just so.
I started taking Brutus with me everywhere I went just because he's such a portable little guy. It seemed pretty easy to do. So I put him inside my jacket when we went to the mall, and I've taken him rock climbing and kayaking and other things where it was pretty easy to just stick him inside a little pocket, and eventually made a little pouch for him. And this is covered by a special shirt that has holes for his head so that he can't get out even if the pouch would ever tear open. Also, I've made little holes here for his paws to stick out so that he can feel the breeze on his little feet as we go out. Hey, hey, hey. We're on camera here, man, but don't be blowing it.
Luckily, Ron and Brutus have this thing down pretty well. After all, they've made 117 jumps together over a period of 4 years. And Brutus loves it. Really. No kidding.
Brutus would chase the plane down the runway if I didn't take him. So I think I was abusing him when I didn't take him with me. When it started to get famous, we went and called the Humane Society and had them meet with us. So I have Humane Society approval based on Brutus's eagerness to participate.
Ron is a former competitive skydiver who has modified his jump style to make the dives more comfortable for Brutus. Unlike most divers who face the ground during free fall, Brutus prefers to gaze at the blue sky, and Ron obliges him.
All dogs like to stick their heads out the window of the car, and when the chute's open, it's about a 30-mile-an-hour wind that's similar to just cruising down the street. And when I'm in free fall with Brutus, it's in a seated position, so he's protected from most of the free fall wind. Also, I have little goggles that he wears sometimes. All skydivers bond, and obviously Brutus and I are pretty well bonded since we jump together all the time. Man's best friend, you might say.
I'd definitely say that. Whether it's the bottom of the ocean or flying high in the sky, Ron and Brutus go everywhere together, now and forever. People will talk about it over the water cooler at work the next day. Well, we think this next video will generate a lot of conversation. In this case, the picture says it all. A local news crew in Florida was documenting a fire that was threatening wildlife when they caught this life-or-death situation on tape. A terrified bunny tried to cross the highway. We'll let the ambient sounds of the camera crew narrate what happened.
Get that out, bro. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh.
Now there's a pivot any power forward in the NBA can envy. Videos. Yes, that's really a cat, and that's really a mouse. The cat is named Huon. He used to catch and kill mice just like any good cat is supposed to do, until he found Jerry the mouse in a closet. Huon and Jerry live in Pitchit, Central Thailand. Huon's owner, Charnai Nununtum, puts Huon and Jerry in the same cage. This way they get to dine together, and Jerry the mouse is sheltered from cats, dogs, and other predators. What do other cats think of this? Well, let's see. Traitor, turncoat, you are a disgrace to catdom. But Huon doesn't care. She protects Jerry from other cats, as any good mother would. She'll even do what a dad would do, give Junior piggyback rides. Huon and Jerry, a truly odd couple. This is Mookie the monkey and her happy brood of 3 baby kittens. They live together on the Isle of Crete. No one is quite sure how this happened, but right after these kittens were born, Mookie took them from the mom cat and started to suckle them. Since then, she has provided 100% of their minimum daily requirements for food, petting, grooming, and love. She loves to gather them up in her arms and give them a massive group hug. The man who owns both the mom cat and the monkey mom is Nikos Hatsikostas. He was shocked when Mookie hijacked the kittens, but when he saw how much the monkey loved and cared for them, he figured, why not let nature take its course? You've got to admit, Mookie loves these kittens with a fervor that knows no bounds. Mom doesn't seem to mind much. The kittens do hang with her when they get bored with Mookie. In fact, the two are practically best pals. Mom cat will actually bring her kittens to Mookie if they need a simian dose of TLC. Mother love is tender, yes, but it can also be fierce. You don't think Mookie loves these kittens? Look at that expression on her face. You try to get near her kittens and she'll drop you like a bad habit, pal. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Like, okay, why is the lemon juice you buy in stores made with artificial flavor, but your dishwashing liquid is made with real lemons? Why are wrong numbers never busy? And why do they call it chili if it's supposed to be hot? Well, here's another one. How does a giant New Zealand grasshopper survive being frozen solid all winter long?
You remember all those 50s science fiction movies about out-of-control radiation experiments that cause nature to run amok and create a race of colossal grasshoppers that terrorize local law enforcement? Well, this is no science fiction movie. You are looking at an honest-to-goodness, real, live, colossal grasshopper. It's called a weta. There are two kinds of wetas. This first kind here, called giant wetas for obvious reasons, are as big as a person's hand. Wetas are a fascinating study in the mechanics of evolution. How did a grasshopper evolve to be this huge over the eons? Well, wetas evolved into jumbo, flightless thunder insects, precisely because of the lack of efficient predators in their environment. Since there were no cats or rats to chase and eat them, they just got bigger and bigger. The other kind of weta has an even more astonishing story. This is called the mountain or alpine weta. The alpine weta survives the winter by freezing itself. Scientists theorize that the weta controls the process by somehow starting to turn into an icicle when the temperature hits 2 to 3 degrees above freezing. By doing this, the insect protects its cell membranes when the water in its body expands as a result of freezing. Then in the spring, the weta manages to thaw itself out and go on with its business. And here's a highly evolved frog. We humans have to buy sunblock from a store, but this Argentinian frog secretes a wax-like mucus that protects him from the sun. His body seems made to facilitate this waxing motion. We humans need help applying sunscreen to our backs, but the Argentinian frog? No, thank you. I'll do it myself. There, shiny as a bright new penny.
No, this isn't a TV movie on one of the family channels. This actually happened. The cockatoo is named Candy. The doctor is Dr. Don Harris of Miami, Florida. And the story will make you appreciate how smart you can be when you're motivated by compassion.
Hi, I'm Dr. Don Harris, and I give pet birds a second chance.
Dr. Don's domain is your basic mini-mall storefront veterinary clinic. But to a certain cockatoo named Candy, this is a place where miracles happen, where the impossible becomes possible, where lives are saved and dreams come true. That's because Dr. Don is a pretty extraordinary doctor.
Okay, guys, here we go. Let me close this. Hello, guys. How are y'all?
He's prized not only for his skill,
Very good.
but for his intuitive sense of what's wrong and his creativity in healing his minuscule patients. With Candy, he faced one of his most difficult challenges. Candy had been resisting the advances of an aggressive male cockatoo suitor. The owner of both birds locked them in widely separated cages. Let's let Dr. Don pick up the story from here.
A few weeks later, he heard a commotion, heard the birds screaming outside, and came out to discover that the male had escaped from his cage, found Candy, and was basically attempting to attack her through the bars of her cage. Now, because she had been walking on the cage in an attempt to get away, he continually grabbed at her feet and bit the feet to the point of pretty significantly mutilating both of them.
Dr. Don realizes that Candy's legs are too damaged to save and that she cannot survive without them. He'll either have to euthanize her or come up with an unconventional solution. Lucky for Candy, he chooses to use a bit of ingenuity.
So in this case, what I did is I used standard stainless steel bone pins, and I inserted one into the remaining segment of bone as I would if I were repairing the bone. But instead of trimming the other end of the pin and being able to align the bones, I left the end of the pin protruding from the leg. I then used the pin itself to form a circular disc, just like at the bottom of a lamp post. The dental acrylic came into play when I needed to contain that wire disc in plastic so that it wouldn't get caught on things, and so it would form a nice, stable, firm footing, literally, for the bird. Into the pins, I basically configured very subtle bends, and that was one way that I conceived of overcoming the possible loss of the device from the leg. This is the upper part of Candy's legs, the femur, and then the next bone below that is in essence, the tibia. And that's the equivalent of a person's shin. Candy lost the lower half of both legs right about through the level of the shin, the middle of the shin. What this shows is the wire going up the bone on both sides. And in fact, even here you can see the bends in the wire that allow it to hold itself on the interior of the bone. A different view here just shows better the upper leg and the lower leg. These are her actual first steps. This is when she had just woken up from anesthesia. And you can see she immediately uses them to propel herself. So this is home video as it happens, but those are literally her first steps on her new legs. Candy's now able to get herself around, to walk around just about as well as any other cockatoo. The difference being that she can't grab with those feet. So she's unable to hold food, she's unable to climb up on perches. However, the owner's got her in her own little container in which she can basically walk around like other animals.
Instead of being euthanized, Candy can walk thanks to Dr. Don's skill and ingenuity. And what happened to the male cockatoo that attacked her so badly?
Well, he's back in his own cage with multiple locks on the door and a 24-hour armed guard.
Club. And the man who has developed an all-consuming fraternal bond with these furry critters. Greg and his wife Kathy not only head up the Squirrel Lovers Club, they also publish the bi-monthly Squirrel newsletter, In a Nutshell. And they've turned their home into a kind of sanctuary for their furry friends, as you can plainly see. Some of their fellow squirrel lovers drive here to pay their club dues and share their devotion. The squirrel has been around for about 11 million years. A lot of the time, squirrels are vilified. I mean, they do gnaw power lines and drive gardeners batty. And to be perfectly honest, they have been known to bite people and give them rabies. Okay, there, we said it. We don't encourage you to do what Greg is doing. He's lucky, but he also has some psychic connection with the squirrel world. At the end of the day, maybe it's all about the calming, centering effect that any beloved pet has on its owner. There's a connection you feel with all life. Most people get it from dogs and cats. Greg gets it from squirrels, and they seem to get it back from him.
Thanks Thanks for joining us for these amazing videos. We hope you'll think of our show when
You feel all bogged down, trapped in your everyday routine, and you're fishing for some relief. Maybe you're ready to act a little squirrely on Amazing Animal Videos.
Hi, I'm Eileen Avery. Here on Amazing Animal Videos, we pride ourselves on being open-minded. We want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. We recognize that in other parts of the world, they're not as obsessed with rap music, cheeseburgers, and video games as we are. They find other things interesting, like women covered with scorpions. Let's see what you think.
Most of us look on scorpions as something to avoid. I mean, these aren't cuddly kittens. These are cranky, skittish, high-strung arachnids with venomous tails. I guess that word hasn't filtered back to Thailand, where these two young women, known as the Scorpion Ladies, do their thing. These scorpions may look calm, but they are dangerous. They've apparently stung these girls many times. But does that stop them? No. In fact, part of their act is putting scorpions on their faces and putting the scorpion stingers in their mouths. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Some men actually find this erotic. They eat scorpions for the power and virility they supposedly give them. When they watch the Scorpion Ladies put scorpion stingers in their mouths, well, if this were Thailand, we'd have to send the young ones to bed. This would be too darn racy.
Hello, my name is Henry Lizard Lover, and for me, lizards are man's best friend.
Yes, that's actually his name, Henry Lizard Lover. Of course, that wasn't his original name. He changed his name to prove how much he loved lizards. You wouldn't believe how much this fellow loves lizards. At one time, he had 50 in his house.
I love to kiss this lovable little lizard, just to show that she's very friendly and won't bite. She's lovely. If I could find a girl with eyes like this, I'd settle down.
Get the picture? And this lizard love has led him on a kind of crusade to wipe out some annoying lizard stereotypes. Cut it out, America.
After I started collecting lizards and woke up to see what great creatures they are, I realized about how there's all this prejudice about the lizards. Most people are always thinking of them as slimy, creepy creatures, cold-blooded. People have the worst ideas of them. But that's because people really have very little experience with the lizards, and it's a very unfair thing.
Maybe you're wondering how having all these lizards around affects Henry's social life.
You know, I've always gotten this thing where people thought if I have a lot of lizards, it's going to be like I have the cooties and girls won't want to be around me or something, but it's actually the opposite. I mean, besides my love for the lizards, I happen to find out that there are a lot of women, beautiful, gorgeous women, that love the lizards also. So all these years, my best way for meeting girls is by having my lizards.
Of course, once he meets all those women by having all those lizards, he's got to explain his hobby of posing the lizards in ways that are a little unique.
Okay. Lana, I just need you to give me that mysterious look. Okay, let's try that right there. That's good. Very good. Oh, excellent.
I mean, a lot of lizard owners find this appealing, but, well...
I've had other people, again, a lot of obsessive iguana owners, I've had them complain to me that it's not natural, or people that just didn't know how the lizards could pose and they were worried that maybe I'm using some tricks or something, but that's not the case. My lizards just became so calm and relaxed, they're willing to sit in any kind of position I put them in, and they stay there for hours and hours.
Despite changing his name to Henry Lizard Lover and posing his lizards in provocative poses, Henry isn't, you know, obsessed with them. Just ask him.
In my case, I'm not obsessive about the lizards. I'm just trying to have fun with them and having a lot of lizards to enjoy. It's just a fun thing. I have the time and space for it, and I can afford it. When they're sitting in these poses, I think they're just feeling like they're safe and that I'm there. And by the way, if I leave, if I walk away, they jump out of those chairs and they get scared and they look to hide. So they know me. I'm like their safety blanket. This face is their safety blanket and their friend.
Their friend, their public relations man, their benefactor, and their personal Hugh Hefner.
All right, this is Mr. Bones.
Louisiana animal version of the fugitive. No one quite knows how this goat got up on this roof. But if he was trying to avoid detection, he probably shouldn't have chosen a corrugated tin roof, which only amplifies the hoof clatter. Okay, here's daring escape number 1. Whoa, that's an astounding leap. And now the animal control folks realize they're up for quite a chase.
Somebody's opening.
Now here's a classic confrontation of man versus goat. It looks like this might be the end for our renegade goat. They've got him cornered. He tries to leap the wall. Nope, can't make it. He looks desperately for a way out. And then, through sheer force of will, the plucky goat just bulls past the animal control officer and takes off for freedom yet again. Every time they get close to catching him, he figures out some way to shimmy out of the trap. Maybe, just maybe, this goat just can't be captured. Alas, after giving chase for more than 2 hours, the exhausted goat finally lets himself be collared. But not before involving 10 animal control people. Here's the happy ending to the story. They were going to destroy the goat, but because of his heroic efforts to save his own life, the people for the ethical treatment of animals asked that his life be spared. Today, he lives on a farm, free to roam about and savor the freedom he earned. Okay, so we know goats love their freedom. So what other astonishing facts can we reveal about goats? Well, Buddy the pygmy goat seems to enjoy horseback riding. Buddy is owned by Hilda McConville of Rural Valley, Pennsylvania. When she first put Buddy on the back of her horse, Candy, she discovered they both liked it. They quickly became friends. I mean, it's not like you put up with goat hooves digging into your back unless you enjoy the companionship of your goat friend. This beautiful relationship came about by accident. When Hilda bought Buddy as a baby, she put him with the older goats, but those goats wouldn't let him get at the grain trough. That's when Hilda had the idea of putting Buddy on Candy's back and letting him feed up there. It worked perfectly, and then Buddy decided he liked riding as well as standing on Candy's back. Then 2 became 3 when Hilda discovered the joys of riding with Buddy on her back. Hilda knows Candy best, and she insists that Candy is as crazy about Buddy as Buddy is about Candy. They have become a leading attraction in their own neighborhood, delighting everyone from the local Girl Scouts to folks in the local nursing home. Buddy and Candy's biggest fans are probably Hilda's own grandkids. The horse and the goat, friends forever. At this point, there are no plans for the goat to ride the horse in the Kentucky Derby.
As much as possible, we're going to let the actions of these courageous folks speak for themselves. Here's what you need to know.
Gay Butcher raises her cattle on an island in the Waikato River in Auckland, New Zealand. Due to days of heavy rain, the river began to rise. The cattle had to be moved because the entire ranch would soon be underwater. She needed help, and she needed it quickly. Soon, some heroes were on their way, riding to the rescue in a decidedly modern fashion. 6 members of the Auckland, New Zealand Jet Ski Sport Association are racing to save the cattle. The river has overflowed its banks. Now the jet skiers are helping round up the herd of 60 cattle and move them across the Waikato to higher ground. The island ranch is completely submerged, but the cattle don't panic. The men are able to get them moving to safety. It's the strays that offer the most trouble. Imagine trying to wrangle all that beef on the hoof in all that water. They finally lead her back to the herd. But their troubles are just beginning. The only way to save this calf is to wrestle it into a barge normally used to transport hay. To negotiate an unbelievably treacherous patch of river, they lead this cow on a rope attached to a motorboat, and the others follow. The jet skis make all the difference in saving the lives of the cattle. Hour after hour, the men press on with this desperate task. After 6 hours, the first animal makes it safely to shore. But it will take more than 14 hours to get 59 of the 60 cattle across. Only one drowns in this dire situation. And all because of these men with a shared bond of courage. The Pizzi family of Buffalo, New York were vacationing on a beach in North Carolina.
All these are the wild horses of Shackelford Island.
Dad was shooting some wild horses when his video eye was drawn out to sea. Some boys had discovered a 300-pound pygmy killer whale that seemed to be in distress. It was floundering.
You know, the way it's sitting, it doesn't seem like it's okay.
Soon after its discovery, it seemed to give up, rolling over on its side, its blowhole going underwater. Joseph and Joan Pizzi and 2 other helpful couples forget about frolicking in the surf and spend the next 2 hours saving the life of the whale.
We're waiting for the Duke Marine Laboratory to come because he's still alive. Mommy's keeping his blowhole out of the water so he can breathe. And Daddy and this fine gentleman in front of him are holding his tail so he doesn't float out to sea. And Alicia is just giving direction.
After 2 hours of tender, loving care, the whale was turned over to the Coast Guard.
He's breathing, so that's a good sign. He's got a few small cuts, don't look too serious.
The Coast Guard flew the whale to a Florida aquarium for treatment. But not before everybody said a final goodbye. It's not every vacation you get to save a sea creature in distress. He takes a beat, he's up, even if the best one is a dog. Navia is a 2-year-old lifeguard dog who works on the beaches of Chania, Crete. She's the only lifeguard dog in all of Greece and a certified member of the Chania Volunteer Lifeguard Association. Now come on, when you're drowning, you don't really care who saves you, right? Man, woman, dog? The fact is, Navia can do it all, from jumping out of helicopters to save lives, to towing a raft full of frightened people. About the only thing she can't do is give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another Amazing Animal Videos. The very next time you're looking for videos that reveal 4 to 5 tons with large ears, massive feet, and huge bodies. An elephant's trunk alone has 80,000 muscles. And as this first video shows, when elephants get bent out of shape, the trouble you're in, well, that's pretty big too.
Feeding time at a San Diego game park for some Asian elephants. Elephant handler David Salmarcos is dishing out the food. The hungry herd is crowding the gate a little more than David would like. He decides to move the herd back and yells for another worker to help.
Hey, Bob!
David will soon regret raising his voice.
Hey, Bob!
Suddenly, an elephant named Cindy, perhaps responding to his yell, charges. David scrambles out of the pen and tries to close the gate. Cindy delivers a powerful uppercut and sends him sailing towards the wall. Then Cindy moves in to finish the job. As elephant experts like Shirley Richardson of the Los Angeles Zoo point out, handlers must remember the first rule of working with animals.
Any wild animal has the potential to be extremely dangerous. We are given protocols to follow. We are given certain things that we have to do to make it safe for us. Before we ever work side by side with the elephants, we have to bond and we have to work behind them, and we don't go right up next to them right away.
David is lucky the price he paid wasn't higher. Now, wouldn't you like to know what was going through David's mind while all this was happening? Let's see it again through his eyes.
I was in the arena pen area after cleaning up the arena for the show that we do twice a day, and in the process of getting ready to go out into the yard, I opened the gate. I was going to bring my wheelbarrow into the yard. As Cindy has acted up in the past against other keepers, I've heard stories of her going after other keepers and attacking them, and one gentleman I heard she broke both of his collarbones, and so I've heard all the stories, but yet I've never seen her attack somebody. Well, as I moved out of the arena, she turned around and started running after me, and my first instinct was to dive under the matriarch elephant. The reason I did that was I heard a story in the past of a guy getting attacked by an elephant, and that was his way out, was diving under another elephant and going under her legs, and he got away. In the process of doing that, I was able to get into the arena, but realized that the gate was open. So ran over to the gate to close it, and then she hit the gate. The gate hit me and threw me approximately 15, 20 feet where I landed, and looked up, and she came over and tried to finish me off by putting her head down and putting some pressure on me, and that's how the elephant will kill you. The entire time this situation was going on, from the time I got hit by the gate, I did not think I was surviving this incident because there was no pain. It was just pure adrenaline that was running through my body, and there was no pain being felt, so the whole time I thought, okay, I'm dead. But I had a little good fortune because I was next to the concrete building and her head hit the building, and that kind of saved me in that sense. In the video, you'll see a couple elephants come into the arena area as she's attacking me. They were not coming into the arena to help her attack me. What they were doing was coming into the arena because we have a lot of bamboo in that facility, and they can't reach the bamboo from across the fence, so they thought they had a perfect opportunity to get some bamboo while there was nobody around. During the video, at the very end, you'll see that her last move is when she kicks me in the forehead and then turns to her left to leave the arena. She left the arena on her own after realizing that other keepers were on their way and yelling her name. I actually didn't suffer too many injuries, which is amazing. I broke my left collarbone. I had 5 damaged discs to my lower back. I had a lot of cuts and bruises, damaged knees that were cut down pretty good. My ankles, my left hip was cut open, my back, the back of my head, my top of my forehead.
Today, 7 years later, David is a financial analyst, managing bulls and bears instead of elephants. So how does he feel about Cindy?
As far as having any ill feelings towards Cindy, I don't think it really was her fault, or she really was just trying to get after me. The next day she did it, try and attack somebody else. So I don't think it was just me. Still to this day, I can't shake the incident. I think about it daily, whether it's I look down and I see a scar on my knee, I think about it, or I walk into my office and see a picture of me with the elephant, I think about the incident. So it'll be with me forever.
Did you know that elephants can swim? Not only can they swim, they're actually pretty good at it, as this video shows. It makes sense when you think about it. An elephant's body is largely made up of fat. Fat is buoyant. Therefore, elephants can float just enough to swim as long as they maintain some kind of forward motion. In places like Thailand, the people use these Asian elephants as a combination life raft cargo vessel. They ride the elephants from their home island to another island that is full of timber. Then the elephant helps haul the timber back to the home island. Hey, that's cheating. Ah, there we go. These elephants have been known to swim more than a half a mile between islands. So if you've got a backyard swimming pool, why not get your own swimming elephant? Even better than watching them swim is watching them do a cannonball off the diving board. Here's a case of reverse automation. An elephant doing everything an automated car wash can do, only better. Judy is a 9,000-pound Asian elephant from Marine World, USA, who has the car washing thing down cold. She hoses down the car with the 8 gallons of water she can hold in her trunk. Then Judy applies the suds, very stylishly, I might add. A thorough rinse job. A custom dust busting with her patented vacuum trunk, and finally her signature trunk towel dry. The price for all this custom tender loving care? $500. Since it's a fundraiser for the zoo, that price doesn't include a hot wax. That's her way of saying, next, let's keep it moving, people.
Animals seem to open their hearts and are going to open your mind about animal friendships.
A forest guard finds this baby squirrel motherless and abandoned in a village in northern Italy. The family cat had just had kittens. What if they slipped the squirrel in there with the kittens? Would the mother take pity on it? You can see the answer. The mom cat cleans and cares for it like one of her own. The other kittens put up a little more resistance, but no more than siblings would do with other siblings. There's the usual boxing, poking, and slapping, but at the end of the day, the squirrel is part of the family and everything works out okay. You may think that story was strange, but apparently it's not that unusual. Seems like there are cats all over the place willing to nurture motherless squirrels. Meet June Smith of Tovey, Illinois. At first, she tried to feed the orphan squirrels she found in her backyard with an eyedropper. When that didn't work, she put the squirrels in with her cat's new litter of kittens. As you can see, the squirrels figured out the program right away, and there seems to be enough for everyone. Of course, one day the kittens will have to grow up. So what happens to the squirrels then?
Hopefully they'll go, but it's going to be cold by then. They might say, I'm staying in the house. But if they want to stay in here, they're welcome. We'll see what we can do.
If you want my opinion, I don't think you could get these squirrels out of here no matter how hard you tried. They found a home. They found a family. They found a mother who loves them, even if they're the most unkitten-like kittens in all creation. That's mother love. Even male cats get in on this cross-species parenting craze. Taboo is a male cat from New Jersey. There he was, minding his own business, doing his usual neighborhood prowl when somehow, no one's quite sure, 5 ducklings mistook Taboo for their mom and followed him home. Now the dad cat looks out for his charges with the appropriate balance of love and discipline. Taboo's family has made a place in their home for the ducklings. Eventually, they'll be released into the nearby woods, but for now, they'll do what Dad says.
Not in the world of the seahorse. And what about the bombardier beetle? How can an insect that small possibly do what he does to ward off predators? It boggles the mind.
You know, it's the same all over, whether you're human, insect, or animal. If you want people to leave you alone, you need a realistic deterrent. This is the bombardier beetle, and with a name like that, you know he's carrying the insect equivalent of weapons of mass destruction. If some predator comes after this fella, he opens the bomb bay doors on the rear and... yow! What you're watching is the beetle releasing 2 chemicals from different parts of its body, which combust in the predator's face at 212 degrees. With a weapon like this, who needs pepper spray? If you want to see how this defense system works on the mean streets of Jungletown, watch this. A frog snags the bombardier beetle. Rejected. And the beetle walks away saying, "Anybody else want a piece of me? Anybody? Anybody?" And now, the courtship rituals of the seahorse, a story with a surprise ending. When mating is about to begin, the male swims around the female in an elaborate, entwining courtship dance. This goes on for about 3 to 4 days. When it's finally time to enter the gates of heaven, metaphorically speaking, the male thrusts his hips out and displays the pouch where he'll carry the eggs of the female. If you were a female seahorse, you would think this was so hot. And now it's time to move any young, impressionable seahorses away from your TV. This is the actual mating ritual. Hundreds of fertilized eggs transferred from female to male in 5 seconds. The male brood pouch seals over and the pregnant male, ooh, I get chills just putting those words together. The pregnant male carries the eggs to term. The male seahorse gives birth. When it's time, he releases up to 150 babies into the sea to fend for themselves. These baby seahorses will soon learn how to swim vertically and take in food through their snouts. And once they take in that food, they'll have to figure out how to digest it because seahorses don't have stomachs. But that's all in the future. Now they're free just to wonder how it is that they were mothered by their father.
Where you never really see how big they are. Then one day, Homer the elephant seal decided to pay the townsfolk a visit. And what he did to a couple of cars wasn't so cute.
Look at this face. Does this look like the face of a rampaging bully boy? And yet, here he is, Homer the elephant seal, the plague of Gisborne, New Zealand. Especially if you own a car or truck. Pound that baby, Homer. Now I know how a nail feels when it's being caressed by a hammer. Homer, named after a certain pudgy and popular TV cartoon character, isn't really antisocial. He just has an itch he can't scratch. That's why Homer periodically wallows up on land, seeks out the nearest scratching post, in this case a small pickup truck, and tries to relieve that nagging itch. Before Homer started bashing cars, he knocked over a power transformer, plunging half the town into darkness. So this is small-time stuff here.
Unless, of course,
it's no wonder Homer is famous. How often are you able to say, "Forget about going to the movies. Let's go watch our local elephant seal destroy the automotive pride of the city in a vain effort to find relief. The locals think this is funny, and it is kind of funny, unless that happens to be your truck. If you ever wander out of the shopping mall and discover a massive elephant seal bashing your car, do what this plucky New Zealander does. Swing some yellow rope at him. Remember, yellow rope only. Homer tries to scratch his itch another way, but let's face it, if you really want to get the job done, there's nothing like a car. And once you finally scratch that itch, why not take a well-deserved break, resting your face in the indentation you've just made in the door? I mean, it fits your face perfectly. But the curse of the elephant seal is that even when you scratch that itch, the itch doesn't stay scratched for long. There's always another itch and another car to bash trying to work it out. You want that sucker, Homer? Beat it, bash it, and love bomb it into oblivion. See, here's another example of the yellow rope principle. I guess yellow is to elephant seals what red is to fighting bulls. Eventually, you have to figure that Homer's going to get tired. I mean, you can only vandalize cars so much in any one day. You think you've seen a yawn before, but you've never seen a real yawn until you've seen Homer yawn. Finally, when he's good and ready, Homer waddles back into the water. Homer's fans gather and cheer him on. There may be more popular cult heroes on the planet, but Homer is the only cult hero who has turned the world into one big scratching post. What should we call?
And those cats are
People who own the house don't want him in here. So why is he in here? As near as the police can figure out, the deer saw his reflection in this front door, thought it was another deer, and attacked his own reflection. After the deer had crashed his way inside, it ran amok, desperately looking for a way out of this trap. Luckily, all this happened on December 26th, the day after Christmas. But still, how'd you like to come home and find something like this? And then you hear hoofbeats, and you know the critter is still in there. The local constabulary arrived to deal with this oddball break-in. After letting the beast work off some energy bashing the washing machine, they moved in, got the drop on him, and hustled him out onto the front lawn. They were scared of the deer, and the deer was scared of them. Only after the deer figured they were gone did he throw off the bag and make his getaway. Coming up next, it's not David and Goliath, but it'll do in a pinch. It's Space Shuttle versus Woodpecker, and the Woodpecker's winning. Stay tuned.
some seemingly invincible foe. Now think of the mighty Space Shuttle pitted against a couple of tiny woodpeckers. Who would you bet on?
2, 1.
There's not much that can stop the launch of a space shuttle. These mighty behemoths pack millions of pounds of thrust and are built to repel waves of cosmic radiation. Unfortunately, in 1995, a launch was delayed because of woodpeckers. That's right, yellow-shafted woodpeckers pecked more than 70 holes in the external fuel tanks and solid rocket boosters of the Space Shuttle Discovery as it sat here on Launch Pad 39B.
I don't believe we've ever had a situation where we've had birds cause this amount of damage.
The shuttle launch pad is in the middle of a federal wildlife refuge, so the woodpeckers felt right at home here. It's one of those immutable laws of nature that if you think of a billion things that can go wrong, it'll be the billionth and one thing that shuts everything down. From that day forward, NASA has included woodpeckers in their plans.
We're aware that the potential is there for birds when they go through their nesting periods. So now that we're aware of that, then we can take preventative measures next time around.
Those persistent little woodpeckers caused $10,000 worth of damage to the space shuttle, and the cost of delaying the launch jumped to over $200,000. Fortunately, the space shuttle was repaired and launched within the week.
Thanks for... and you'll see what I mean.
Farmington Hills, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. No one knows who did this, but it stunned everyone who saw this poor goose. The goose tries to eat, but can't open its mouth. And this isn't the first time this has happened.
We had a similar incident last year with a geese also, and this goose looks like it's much more in danger. The arrow to me looked like it was going to inhibit its ability to eat.
You know, if it was an accident, that would be one thing, but this is an intentional situation, and that should not happen in this type of society that we live in this area.
No matter where you live, this is shocking and cruel.
We've seen this before, so it's not a matter of it's the first time, but it's certainly disappointing to see that kind of thing happen.
Somehow, even with an arrow through his head, the injured goose was able to make its way down to the pond and take a swim. Observers watched the goose, waiting for help to arrive. Well, help finally did arrive. The care showed by the rescuers demonstrated that humans can also be kind, compassionate, and helpful versus sadistic and deliberately cruel. The vets safely removed the arrow from the goose's head by cutting it off close to the wound and slowly easing it out. But the question remains, how did this goose manage to survive with an arrow stuck through his head? According to veterinarian Don Harris, the goose's brain only occupies a tiny area in its skull.
The arrow happened to contact this bird's head in the one place where there are no vital structures. If we look at this x-ray, there's a dark area right there, which basically represents a total void. There is nothing in that area between the sides of the bird's skull.
Well, after a harrowing ordeal, he's perfectly healthy and ready to resume his adventures in the wild. Here he is, enjoying a relaxing mid-afternoon swim. He's with his pals, it's a lovely day, and best of all, that nagging headache is gone. The firefighters of LA's Station 51 have responded to a lot of urgent calls. But this time, 2 lives are at stake, a woman and a horse.
We were dispatched from Fire Station 90 at Van Nuys Airport to a rider-down horse incident in the Granada Hills area. We flew in the helicopters out to that area, landed, and walked down to where this horse was trapped in the bottom of a ravine, a crevice. I recognized the horse definitely was in a bad position and in distress at that time. But I think our major concern was with the rider who was underneath the horse, and at that time, you really couldn't even see Sharon, the rider, under the horse.
Get a good position.
You're looking at Twister, 1,000 pounds of frightened horse. And buried beneath Twister in a narrow ditch is her owner, Sharon Barnes.
Definitely, this is the most unique horse rescue we've ever been faced with. It wasn't in an area where you could back a tow truck up to lift the horse off the rider. It took a little bit of thinking and coming up with a plan to get this horse off of Sharon without injuring Sharon doing it. And at that time, the horse was, you can imagine, very upset and kicking and flailing around.
The rescuers are concerned that Twister might injure Sharon, but Sharon herself has a different concern.
My concern was that Twister was going to be okay, because I know horses aren't supposed to be upside down, because it's very bad for their organs and they can die real quick. She knew I was under her, and she was very careful not to hurt me. She put her head down so carefully every time she tried to right herself. I could hear her breathing, and sometimes it sounded like she was giving up. So I'd kind of, encourage her to not give up and not die on me, because that would just be terrible.
Twister won't let the rescuers pull her out of the ditch. They decide to sedate the horse and try again.
This horse was in a bad spot. The horse was showing signs of stress, labored breathing. Of course, we wanted to get Sharon out of there, but to help this horse, we're going to have to put this horse back up on its 4 legs again and get it out of the ditch.
Rescuers are graced with an amazing stroke of good fortune. In the group of onlookers is a veterinarian. He knows what medication to use and where to find it. He's helicoptered out to retrieve it while the firemen talk to Sharon. She's been under Twister for more than 2 hours, and the terrible strain of the situation is beginning to wear down both horse and rider.
I could hear the helicopters. I could hear the firemen trying to figure out what they were going to do. At one point, I was getting tired of it. And, I guess that was the closest point I did come to panic when I asked her to please tell the vet to hurry up.
The vet soon returns and sedates Twister. The rescuers strap the horse's legs, and then the tough, delicate work of pulling her out begins.
When we started pulling on the ropes and lines, the horse came all the way over onto its feet again, and Sharon was pulled out right away.
Bystanders are amazed to see Sharon stand after her horrible ordeal. She's put on a stretcher and rushed by helicopter to a nearby hospital. Now, rescuers turn to saving Twister's life. At first, they think they are home free, but when it becomes clear that Twister won't be able to get out of the ditch, they decide to call in the Air Operations Unit of the Los Angeles Fire Department. No chopper pickup is easy, especially with a payload this heavy. But these firemen are absolutely determined to save this horse. And like Pegasus, the fabled flying horse of Greek mythology, Twister takes to the skies. Twister is flown to a nearby street and gently lowered to the pavement. Emergency vets are right there to administer fluids and antidotes to counteract the sedatives. Everyone is relieved and thrilled that things have turned out so well, especially Sharon.
I don't think I could express the gratitude I have for everybody that helped. Without them and without their fantastic efforts, I mean, they're all heroes. They did everything they needed to do, and I think they all went above and beyond the call of duty.
Good job, bro.
Coming humans. When Dr. Francine Patterson, president and research director of the Gorilla Foundation, first started working with a year-old gorilla named Coco to teach her rudimentary language skills, gorillas routinely appeared on survey lists of the most hated and feared animals. Dr. Patterson has now worked with Coco for over 28 years. Her work has changed the world's opinion about gorillas and the scientific perception of what they are capable of learning and expressing.
I was ready to just sign to her everything about what she was doing. My professor, Carl Pribram, said, no, I think you better start simple. Start with 3 signs or so. And I said, okay, let's try food, drink, and more, since those seem to be really important words.
After only 1 month as a student, Coco was using sign language to make simple requests. Coco now knows over 1,000 sign language words and understands 2,000 words of spoken English.
So if we ask her to say a word, she can sign it.
How about eye? All right. How about ear? All right.
Initially, I thought I'd work 4 years and learn all about ape language and stop. This is what other researchers had done, and it seemed like an okay idea at the time. But what I came to realize is that there was an obligation and a bond that I could not ignore. And an emotional bond had been formed, just like between a mother and child. And you can't just sever that bond without extreme consequences on both sides. What hits me as I work with her and discover that she's capable of lying, that she's got a good sense of humor, that she has a sense of, has a very active emotional life, And also that she can be embarrassed. I think that was the one that got me the most. Is that, wow, she is every bit as much of a person as I am. Gorillas are now seen as gentle and loving and intelligent and wise and worth saving. And I think this is largely because Coco has projected that image, in that the image of her cuddling the kitten, that just says what words cannot say about the nature of a gorilla.
Gentle, loving, intelligent, wise. Everything we were sure a gorilla wasn't until Coco came along to show us how wrong we could be. Coming up's half cat, half rabbit. Or is it? Is there even such a thing? Gracelyn Rodak is the proud owner of this alleged so-called Cabot. The kids at this school in Marion, Michigan got a chance to see this wonder in action. Being kids, they're ready to accept that it really is a Cabot, to play with it, to have fun with it, unlike certain stuffy adults who can't even believe what they see with their own eyes.
I've never seen it. I didn't know it was genetically possible, but it could be, I suppose.
Could be, I suppose? Could be, absolutely, according to these kids.
As far as we know, we're the only one in Michigan that has one. Everybody else just wanted to see it, and I guess everybody else thought it was interesting, too.
So what could be stranger than one alleged Cabot? How about two alleged Cabots? Yes, that's right. A second Cabot is roaming about, this one owned by Patty and Rick Benningfield. They believe their cat may have had a secret rendezvous with an amorous rabbit. So what does all this mean? If a cat has 9 lives, what does a Cabot have? 4.5? And what if Cabots don't really exist at all? Oh, sure, you've just seen 2. But Mike D., curator at the Los Angeles Zoo, says what you're seeing may just be a rabbity kind of cat.
The chances of breeding a cat to a rabbit are almost next to impossible. Both rabbits and cats have an entirely different sexual orientation as far as what attracts the male to the female. The chances of a female rabbit allowing a male cat to do that are almost next to zip.
Instead, Dee says it's possible that a cat can be born with an extra bone in its hind legs.
So what you see is a cat that has an abnormally long set of rear legs, and it bounces around like a rabbit. And that's the only thing that will explain that.
What a spoil sport. Next thing you know, he'll be telling us that unicorns don't exist. The Santa Barbara Zoo has almost everything a zoo could need.
The zoo is located on some nice beachfront property right in Santa Barbara for about 23 acres approximately on a hillside overlooking the ocean. We've got around 500 animals that live here at the zoo. We get quite a few visitors every year.
And one of the animals the visitors come to see is Jamina, a giraffe who looks like she's got a boomerang stuck in her throat.
Jamina came here from the San Diego Wild Animal Park back in 1987, at about a year old. So that makes her about almost 15 years old right now. She came in as a perfectly normal juvenile. And, well, soon after she arrived here, we started noticing a little kink in her neck. And it seems with age that kink kind of has accentuated over time to being where it is today. So Jamina, other than the kink, she's perfectly normal. When Jamina first started showing this condition, we did some research and we found a similar type situation at the London Zoo back in 1902. A giraffe had died there, and during the necropsy they looked and were able to examine the neck more closely, and they found a condition of the vertebrae where one side was growing faster than the other one, and we think that's a similar case here at the Santa Barbara Zoo. There's no behavioral challenges with her. She's a perfectly normal member of our giraffe herd. With Jamina, we've looked into potentially finding out exactly what's going on with her, But the challenge with large animals like giraffes is anesthesia can sometimes be life-threatening in itself because they're so large and because of the complexity and because of the high blood pressure of the animal involved. So for now, since it really hasn't influenced her quality of life or her behavior in any way, we're just monitoring her neck or her condition on a day-to-day basis.
Jamina is famous, but is she happy?
Is Jamina happy? Well, Jamina, we think, does all the things that typical giraffes do. She eats, she sleeps, and she's able to interact with the herd. She socializes as the other giraffes do. So if you equate that with being happy, I would say, yeah, she is happy.
As happy as you can be with a kink in your neck the size of a river bend. Wildlife wrangler Todd Hardwick would love to tell you about his incredibly rare white raccoon.
Now these two are from the same litter. You can see the one that Jill's holding is a normal marked raccoon. And what I have here is only the second ever in the state of Florida, or as far as we know anywhere in the country right now, to turn up being totally snow white. Now, when people first look at this animal, they assume that it's albino, but it is not a true albino. A true albino would have pink eyes, a pink nose, and pink pigmented paws. And the fact that this one has a black nose and pigmented paws, it's a mutation, which is very rare.
Scientists say your chances of seeing a raccoon like this are 1 in a million. Unless you watch our show, of course.